Ibn Sabah was dead. The walls of Alamut stood silent, but this silence was not peace. It was the stillness that settles just before a storm. The man who had made silent daggers more powerful than empires, who had fused faith, fear, and deception into a single mold, had today been lowered into the dust. But history soon revealed the truth. The death of the Sheikh al-Jabal was not the death of the Batini Fitnah. After him, 7 successors ruled Alamut for 136 years, until 654 AD, an unbroken chain of blood, conspiracy, and assassination. The first name among them was Kiya Buzurg-Ummid, Ibn Sabah's companion, his confidant, and after him, the trustee of his mission. This was an age when even the crowned rulers of the Abbasid Caliphate were not safe, when mosque, mihrab, and Quran, nothing could shield anyone from bloodshed. In today's episode, we reach that moment when a great ruler of the Abbasid era set out for the Friday prayer and did not return alive. According to Ibn Sabah's will, in 518 AD, Kiya Buzurg-Ummid became the Sheikh al-Jabal. Abu Ali was appointed his vizier, and Hassan Kasrani was given command of the army. This was the time when Muslim rulers united and decided that the Batini menace must now be ended. Thus, Sultan Mahmud, the uncle and successor of Sultan Sanjar, marched upon the fortress of Alamut. The fortress was captured, the Batinis suffered heavy losses, and it seemed as if this story had reached its end. But history turned once more. After Sultan Mahmud's death, Kiya Buzurg-Ummid regained control of Alamut, and his rule expanded as far as Qazvin. During his reign, 3 eminent kings fell to Batini daggers, and countless notable figures were handed over to the Angel of Death. In 519 AD, Qadi Abu Sa'd Muhammad ibn Nasr al-Harawi was assassinated in Hamadan by a Batini. But the truly terrifying event came after that. The ruler of Mosul, Qasim al-Dawla Aksunkur, went to offer the Friday prayer with the common people in the Grand Mosque of Mosul. That night he saw a dream. Dogs were attacking him. He killed some, but others wounded him. In the morning he narrated the dream. His companions pleaded with him to remain inside the palace for a few days, but the king replied, "Today is Friday. No matter what happens, I will not abandon the Friday prayer." He opened the Quran, and the very first verse his eyes fell on was, "And the command of Allah is a decreed destiny." He understood. The time had been fulfilled. The king had barely taken his place in the first row when suddenly Batini assassins sprang from all sides. The number of attackers was the same as the dogs he had seen in his dream, a little more than 10. The king resisted, wounded 3 of them, but could not withstand his own injuries. Within moments, the Grand Mosque was filled with blood. He was a devout ruler, pious, God-fearing, a man of night prayers, immersed in worship, yet the dagger saw neither devotion nor rank. At the time of the assassination, Prince Izz al-Din Masood was fighting the Franks in Aleppo. When the news reached him, he came to Mosul and ascended the throne. A search for the killers began. 1 Batini was captured. Reward, threat, death, nothing could force him to speak. Finally, his head was severed. A few days later, 8 attackers were caught. 7 were killed. 1 vanished into the darkness. And the fortress of Alamut, silently, began preparing for its next prey.
520 AH. The limits of patience had now been shattered. The Grand Vizier of Sultan Sanjar, Abu Nasr Ahmad ibn Fadl, issued the order that had been delayed for years. The decree was clear, merciless. Wherever a Batini is found, put him to the sword and confiscate his wealth. This was not merely an order, it was an open declaration of war against the Batini Fitnah. Under the vizier's command, the Islamic army advanced. One force was dispatched toward Tarifit, where a strong Batini stronghold stood. Another army marched toward the outskirts of Nishapur, the town ruled by Hassan ibn Samin, a notorious, ruthless, and depraved Batini leader. Both armies were given the same command: let no Batini survive. When the army of Islam arrived, doomsday descended upon the land. A massacre followed, homes were destroyed, and the Batini leadership was crushed into the ground. Hassan ibn Samin fled the town, but when he realized that no path of escape remained, he climbed the minaret of a mosque and hurled himself to the ground. One moment, and his body was shattered into pieces. On the other front, at Tarifit as well, the Batinis were annihilated, and the army of Islam returned, laden with spoils of war. But this devastation was unbearable for the Batinis. The fire of vengeance ignited within their hearts. Now their target was Vizier Abu Nasr Ahmad ibn Fadl. At last, in the latter part of 521 AH, the Batini fida'is found their opportunity, and this dignified minister of Islam attained the rank of martyrdom. In 523 AH, Batini assassins martyred Sheikh Abdul Latif Khujandi Isfahani, a towering scholar of the Shafi'i school of jurisprudence. In 524 AH, another devastating strike was carried out. The Ubaidi ruler of Egypt, Abu Ali al-Amir bi Ahkam Allah, was assassinated in his own capital, Cairo. The reason was clear. The Batinis refused to recognize him as the Ismaili imam. They upheld the imamate of Nizar, the one who, due to conspiracies, was denied the throne of Egypt. In 526 AH, Abu Hashim, from the lineage of Banu Fatima, claimed the imamate. Many people rallied behind him. Kiya Buzurg-Ummid sent him a message: "Submit to my authority. This claim does not befit you. Refrain from this fitnah." The reply was harsh and insolent. The consequence was inevitable. Kiya Buzurg-Ummid launched a military expedition. Abu Hashim was captured, and then the Batini wolves bound him tightly and burned him alive in fire. In that same year, Qadi Abu Sa'id Hardi was killed at the hands of the Batinis. In 527 AD, Allama Hassan Gorgani was slaughtered. The assassin's name was Abu Mansur Ibrahim Khairabadi. In 528 AD, the Batini Abu Abdallah assassinated Sayyid Daulat Shah Alawi, the ruler of Isfahan. In the same year, two Batinis, Abu Ubaida and Muhammad Dehestani, finished off Aksonkur, the ruler of Maraga. And finally, that same year, another lamp of knowledge was extinguished. Shams Tabrizi, a scholar, drank the cup of martyrdom at the hands of two Batinis, Abu Sa'id Kaini and Abu al-Hasan Farmani. This was an era when neither knowledge was safe, nor power, nor mosque, nor mihrab. This was not a war of swords. This was treachery nurtured behind closed doors. It was a conspiracy in which the enemy was not outside the city, but dwelling within its very heart. Bahram, a dark-hearted Batini, in Baghdad, he martyred his own real Muslim uncle, Ibrahim Asadabi, and then fled toward Syria. Upon arriving there, he presented himself as a preacher of the Ismaili creed,
and from city to city gathered riffraff, vagrants, and misguided minds, forming a faction of his own. The ruler of Aleppo, Il-Ghazi, instead of making Bahram an enemy, considered maintaining relations with him the wiser course for his own safety. Under this political expediency, he recommended to the governor of Damascus that Bahram be granted permission to reside in the city. Permission was granted. Meanwhile, Abu Tahir ibn Sa'd Marganani, rather than stirring the hornet's nest, began providing the Batinis with financial and moral support. The result? Bahram's faction multiplied rapidly. Although the rulers treated the Batinis with leniency, the common people, Ahl al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, found this fitna unbearable. There was social boycott, non-cooperation, and life became suffocating for the Batinis. Seeing this, Bahram said to the governor of Damascus, "Grant us a fortress outside the city so that we may live in peace." Thus, the fortress of Banyas was handed over to the Batinis. The bloodshed did not end here. Behind the walls of Banyas, the Batini knives were already being sharpened, and their next target was far greater than before. The conspiracy was about to reach the very heart of the Abbasid Caliphate. In the next part, we step into the moment when Caliph Al-Mustarshid Billah al-Abbasi sets out, and history witnesses one of its most shocking assassinations. The storm is not over. It has only begun.